It has been a brutal year and a brutal season for the box office at large. I recently saw a report earlier this month that the box office in the US had its worst October in 27 years, excluding only the pandemic, of course, when everything shut down. It's bleak out there. And the New York Times recently published this piece titled 25 Movies, Many Stars, Zero Hits. Hollywood Falls to New Lows. It has been a brutal 3 months for dramas and comedies. And it's across the board. They mention specific examples here. Some were heavily marketed. Many were championed by critics. Most had star power, but not one of the 25 dramas and comedies that movie companies released in North American theaters over the past 3 months has become a hit. Not in the way that Hollywood has historically kept score. Some have played to near empty auditoriums, including After the Hunt, that had Julia Roberts and Bradley Cooper. No, not Bradley Cooper, Andrew Garfield. And Io Edebiri, who thinks that she is a star. And then they mention Christie, Sydney Sweeney, of course, starring in that one. That was a flop.
Christie apparently now holds the record as the biggest second weekend drop-off in like cinema history, 92%.
Really bad.
Really bad.
And then it was the number 9 worst opening weekend of all time.
To the point, guys, when they say many were championed by critics, that doesn't mean anything.
That doesn't,
In the current year, that could not mean less.
Right.
It couldn't.
I just thought it was funny, like, back when we talked about One Battle After Another, how this guy was recording himself on TikTok after watching the movie, and he's like, it had a great score on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, so I thought, like, why not go see it? And
That's
we were
like the last guy who
maybe
actually
that's
trusts them.
the last person on earth who pays attention to critic scores.
Yeah.
And then they mentioned Die My Love, featuring Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. And they ask Kevin Getz, an author of How to Score in Hollywood. He says, to succeed in theaters today, dramas and comedies must have event status, something truly elevated and special. It's not a phase, it's an evolution you can't reverse. The dearth has added to what has already been a troubled year for Hollywood. The summer season, filled with fantasy and science fiction sequels, was the least attended since 1981, after adjusting for inflation and excluding, again, the COVID-19 years. And okay, so there are many reasons why people don't go to the theaters these days, but the number one reason that people cite, of course, is that it's just too damn expensive. And I remember us covering this earlier in this year. Movie theaters are trying everything to bring audiences back, from pickleball to cocktail bars and more. And, you know, it's just not going to change the trend unless theater going becomes more affordable and unless the stories get better. One or the two or both need to happen.
It can't. It can't happen. It can't anymore. Not in the way that they're talking about. At least not in my opinion. When it comes to movie theaters, there's just too much of life now is a world where you're the product, meaning that you can do a lot of things for free as long as you watch the ads and the subscription and get the subscription service now. So you can just scroll Instagram. You can watch people on YouTube like us right now. There's just too many ways in which people kind of divvy their time up, and none of it has anything to do with the theaters. People just aren't interested.
I don't know if they mentioned this title in the article, but I also noticed that The Running Man, starring Glenn Powell, flopped in its opening weekend, only grossing $17 million. And it had a reported production budget of 110.
One of the other annoying things in the article is they talk about the money made by One Battle After Another without citing the fact that it had an enormous budget as well. Which it
did.
Yes.
I'm looking at the poster for The Running Man, and, you know, it's got explosions. It's got Glenn Powell looking super cool. It's got choppers. And I'm just going to say, when I see an explosion on a movie poster, I'm immediately checked out. That's just me.
Yeah, but the rest
you
of
would
us love
expect
it.
a movie with a poster like this and Glenn Powell starring in it to do better than that.
Or
and
Josh Brolin.
They ask what constitutes a hit. While success at the box office is always correlated to how much it costs to make a film, Hollywood has historically used $50 million in ticket sales over an entire run as a benchmark for widely seen drama or comedy. By that measure, After the Hunt with Julia Roberts playing a college professor combating cancel culture is a catastrophe. It cost an estimated $70 million to make and collected $3.3 million in the US and Canada. And
I was not here when you guys talked about that.
Yeah, we discussed this when you were out of town. We talked about how it's being interpreted as a movie that is sort of a post-mortem on the Me Too movement. Mm-hmm. So Ayo Edebiri plays the student, and Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield are colleagues. They are professors, and Julia Roberts is sort of a mentor to Ayo Edebiri's character. Ayo Edebiri's character ends up accusing Andrew Garfield of assault, some sort of Me Too claim. Mm-hmm. But he, on the other hand, is defending himself, saying, no, I was about to hold her accountable for plagiarism, and she's trying to blackmail me into not holding her accountable for what she did. So then Julia Roberts is like, who do I believe? Like, I have so many doubts. Like, what do I do? And there are scenes in the trailer where, like, the older characters are kind of, they're making fun of Ayo Edebiri's generation for being overly sensitive, especially in academic spaces. Whatever. It's the kind of movie that I would find interesting. But most people would not have the slightest interest in seeing a movie like that.
What was the movie Tar with, what's her name?
Oh, yeah, Kate Blanchett was in that one.
Like, people were like, it's an anti-woke movie, and I'm like, please shut up.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
People said similar things about Eddington by Ari Aster.
A lot of people really liked Eddington.
A lot of people on our side, if we want to talk about sides, liked Eddington a lot. I didn't see it just because I'm skeptical of Ari Aster as a person, but another one that wasn't some kind of commercial, like blockbuster success. They also mentioned Kiss of the Spider-Woman starring J-Lo
and Diego Luna. Yeah, it made like $0 at the box office.
$30 million and managed only 1.6 million in sales.
I think it was produced by Ben Affleck, so he was just paying her back for the divorce.
And he was giving her glowing reviews when he was at the premiere.
And he just looked drunk.
he looked bloated and red.
I finally got around to watching The Accountant 2 while I was on the plane to when we were going out of town. It was actually really, really fun. I actually really, really enjoyed it. They definitely did stop. Like the first movie treated autism very, very seriously, and the sequel definitely treats autism like a superpower. Like it leans into it in a more comedic sense. But yeah, the box office is kind of in shambles, and it's sad. Like when I was talking to Dallas last night, he was like he loved this year at the movies. He's like, it wasn't the greatest year ever, but there was a lot of movies that he liked this year that came out, and people just aren't going to come out to it. Eventually, it's going to be all horror movies, because horror movies can be made for like no money, and they have strong return on investment, even outside of the Halloween frame. They can make a lot of money that way. You're going to get nothing but that.
What's going on? Is FNAF 2 out?
No, not yet.
Why the hell didn't that come out during Halloween this year?
I have no idea.
That seems like a ridiculous decision.
Yeah.
They ask what movies are succeeding. They say franchise films are chugging along. Predator Badlands, the 9th installment in a 38-year-old series, collected $40 million last weekend, about 30% better than analysts predicted.
Yes, but it had a 68% drop-off in its second weekend, and they've tried to bot their way to making it somehow seem as relevant as the previous Predator movies. It will never be as relevant as the 1987 Predator movie.
And of course, cost $105 million.
And that is with me saying that I understand that once I see that movie, I know for a fact I'm going to like it because it's exactly up my alley. I know for a fact I'm going to enjoy it. But that doesn't mean that it's ever going to be as relevant as the original movie.
And of course, they do mention that horror movies have attracted better audiences and cost less.
It's time to stop pretending like opening weekend is what the benchmark should be, because that is mainly a product of the superhero age, where movies like Marvel films and DC films tend to be unbelievably front-loaded, meaning they make a great amount of their box office in the opening weekend because it's a spectacle and it needs to be seen then. Otherwise, then you feel like you missed out. Top Gun Maverick made it to $1 billion by chugging along and having low drops from week to week. What you need to do is make movies with great word of mouth that inspire people to talk about it with other people and then get people to go to the theaters. That's how you make the money.
We have a 20 from Value in You, Brett, Mary. A bit off topic, but excluding AI, what is the current trend slash movement slash condition that concerns you most as hurtful to society? I'd love to know what you think about this.
Well, I guess I don't understand the question.
Like, what worries you most about the future, basically?
Social media, in general. I think we'd be better off without social media. I know that's a very, bland answer, but most
of course is intertwined with AI.
Most of the issues that I see for myself would be a lot better if I just didn't have social media.
I think pretty much any social ill that you can name here in response to this question is going to become heavily intertwined with AI anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess I would just say loneliness. Like, I think that's like too broad of an answer, but like loneliness across the board. That's something that worries me about people becoming more alienated from family, friendships in decline, just generally like interacting with people face to face in the real world. We'll get to that later in the show, though.
Yes, we will. I've got more to that answer, but I guess I'll save it for another time.
And I do want to mention this next part. They ask, how have movie studios responded to these successive flops? There's a lot of finger pointing. I don't think that you would see this admission in the New York Times just a handful of years ago. But they say, it's the audience's fault. Americans love to complain about a deluge of superhero sequels and big budget fantasies. And what do they do when a bunch of dramas arrive? They ignore them. It's the news media's fault for reporting on opening weekend box office grosses. Films are declared dead before they have a chance to find their footing. Theaters are at fault for raising prices and bombarding audiences with ads and trailers before films start. That's like barely even scratching the surface of that question. But I mean, regardless of how they're going to respond or how they have responded to these failures, we can at least recognize it's a sad thing when people stop going to theaters to see movies, because that's a communal experience, and that is more a symptom than a cause of kind of the widespread loneliness and alienation in our culture. And I was really curious why Pope Leo had a private audience with a bunch of actors recently.
Before we get to that, I just say, like, it doesn't hit every industry. Now, like one thing that I thought was interesting. So last weekend when we were out of town, we tried to go to a bowling alley, and it was packed. It was a Saturday night. It was full up. Like, there was no slot.
Where?
In Michigan.
Okay.
There was if you wanted to reserve a lane, it was going to be an hour. We went to another one.
Dang.
It was full. So bowling isn't cheap either.
No.
I love bowling, but the thing is like, that's a community experience. That's something you get together.
Right.
Like, you go there to do it with your friends. It's either a humiliation ritual for because you're bad at it, but it's there to build experience with people. It's one of the holy grail of, wow, I haven't done this in a while, along with pool. Like, every time you do it, you say, wow, I haven't done this in forever. But the point is, they're good for the community. They're good for a group of friends. It's like, if you don't have anything to do, it's actually probably more beneficial as a friend group to go bowling than go to the movies. And the bowling alley was full. So maybe it is the stories, because maybe they wouldn't have a problem with sitting around not talking to their friends if the movies they were watching were actually good enough to make the discussion that comes after the movie
That's a good point.
worthwhile.
And think about the amount of money that people spend on streaming services. I mean, it's not just that it's not affordable enough.
Yep.
You're right. But yeah, Pope Leo recently delivered a speech to a bunch of A-list actors. The crowd included Monica Bellucci, Kate Blanchett. They had directors as well.
Monica Bellucci
Greta Gerwig, Darren
Bellucci was in The Passion of the Christ, so that follows, right?
They had Spike Lee, Judd Apatow, Chris Pine, Dave Franco, Allison Brie, Adam Scott. Like, tons of people attended this audience.
All names I've heard.
And he really emphasized in this speech that the cinema experience is important and he wants to revive it. He said, although cinema is now over a century old, it is still young, dreamlike, and somewhat restless art form. It will soon celebrate its 130th anniversary, counting from the first public screening by the Lumiere brothers in Paris on the 28th of December, 1895. From the outset, cinema was a play of light and shadow designed to amuse and impress. However, these visual effects soon succeeded in conveying much deeper realities, eventually becoming an expression of the desire to contemplate and understand life, to recount its greatness and fragility, and to portray the longing for infinity. And he said, entering a cinema is like crossing a threshold. In the darkness and silence, vision becomes sharper, the heart opens up, and the mind becomes receptive to things not yet imagined. In reality, you know that your art form requires concentration. Through your productions, you connect with people who are looking for entertainment, as well as those who carry within their hearts a sense of restlessness and are looking for meaning, justice, and beauty. We live in an age where digital screens are always on. There is a constant flow of information. However, cinema is more than just a screen. It's an intersection of desires, memories, and questions. It's a sensory journey in which light pierces the darkness and words meet silence. As the plot unfolds, our mind is educated, our imagination broadens, and even pain can find new meaning. And I encourage you guys to go pursue the full speech. They published it, the transcript on Deadline. And, you know, he was basically pointing out that the medium of theater going for entertainment is objectively superior in every way to consuming media alone in your bedroom from your phone screen, which we all know inherently. And I think that the people in that audience needed to hear it. And they also need to hear from maybe people other than Pope Leo that their primary job is not to educate and condescend, but to entertain, but also culturally enrich our lives.
How do you, in your opinion, how do they do that? Like, me and you always have such different takeaways when we go to see movies. Like, I don't know about cultural enrichment, but just the act of going to the theater most of the time for me is such a pleasant experience.
It is.
Like,
I would say it's edifying.
Very rarely does like the cultural impact of the movie really speak to me just as much as just the ability to go see someone tell a story. Maybe it has some form of cultural message. Maybe
you're
doesn't.
Consuming cultural output.
Like, I went to see Cocaine Bear and I was edified. There was so much enrichment going on when I went to see Cocaine Bear.
I know you're like joking kind of, but I completely agree
I'm not
with what you're saying.
Like,
and his basic point was like, we live in the attention economy and people are split in 1,000 different directions. Your medium of cinema literally forces people to focus on one thing at one time.
I love it.
And we can't let that die. So I hope Hollywood like figures it out eventually.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.